Hi, it's Rob Ranko from the Carlson Law Firm. I am doing a video today to explain some of the details about the lawsuit we filed last week against the City of Buda and against Walmart in Buda. So there's been a lot of confusion about what our allegations are, what the standard is, legally speaking, for what the officer did or didn't do. And so I want to try to clear up some of those misconceptions. There are two really important legal concepts that are in play and police tactical concepts that are in play. Number one is that of de-escalation. De-escalation generally means to take a potentially explosive situation and make it less explosive. Police officers are trained from day one up and through all of their training to de-escalate a situation whenever it's possible. Now obviously sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes police officers are faced with very volatile situations that don't allow for de-escalation. They don't allow for what the experts would call verbal judo, to try to talk things down a little bit. So there are exceptions. When it's not possible, obviously, it's a non-issue. But in this case, when we look at what the police officer knew upon arriving at the situation at the Walmart in Buda, he was approached by a loss prevention worker from the Walmart who said the husband of the theft suspect is upset. He's been raising his voice and basically I had to leave. So when the officer walked in, you see Mr. Martinez, elderly gentleman in a visible back brace who had just stepped out of his red scooter. You see that in the video. The officer had an obligation at that point, because this is not a dangerous or volatile situation. It's merely a Walmart theft allegation. At that point, the officer could have and should have gone over to Mr. Martinez, maybe touched him on the arm or said, "Sir, I understand you're upset. What's going on? You know, what are you so upset about? Tell me what you know." Mrs. Martinez is in the office at this point. There's certainly no reason why she couldn't wait a few minutes. The officer knew that if there was something potentially volatile, it was with Mr. Martinez. He was upset and concerned about his wife. Again, we're talking about a 73-year-old, disabled Vietnam veteran who's riding a scooter around Walmart, who's also wearing a visible back brace. He doesn't walk well. So instead of dealing with Mr. Martinez upon walking in, the officer instead walks right past him, walks into the Walmart office, starts talking to Mrs. Martinez, but leaves the door open so that Mr. Martinez will follow him in, and that's, of course, where the fireworks start. So de-escalation was one serious missed opportunity by the Buda police officer. He had an opportunity to de-escalate, didn't take it. That's a problem. Secondly, the other issue that we are concerned with, and that's the basis of our allegations here, is that police officers must never use force that exceeds the need. So let's look at this situation. And when you look at the video, keep this in mind. Did the officer have other opportunities to get the situation under control without putting hands on Mr. Martinez? Without saying, either you get out or I'll put you out? Was it necessary to put hands on Mr. Martinez instead of using these de-escalation verbal judo techniques? Could it not have been solved merely with putting a firm arm on Mr. Martinez's bicep and saying, "Sir, let's not make this into something it doesn't have to be"? And I know some folks want to put the onus on Mr. Martinez. Well, if he would have complied, we wouldn't be here. You kind of the comply or die mentality, which of course that's not the standard at all. The officer's reaction to someone he views as being non-compliant must be reasonable to the threat. There was no threat here, and that's the problem. If Mr. Martinez was more aggressive, more violent, more able-bodied, more threatening in any way, then perhaps this reaction could be deemed reasonable, but it's simply not. And so those are the appropriate legal standards we look at when we evaluate these cases, and the ones we applied here. Those are the constitutional protections that we all have, which is we are entitled not to be abused, not to have police officers use force that exceeds the need. Mr. Martinez wasn't fleeing, he wasn't aggressive, he wasn't fighting, he merely wanted some answers.